I merely supported my brother's puppy love with a cup of milk tea, but it brought my high school puppy love ex-boyfriend to be his homeroom teacher. Not only was my brother's relationship caught red-handed, but even my embarrassing history of chasing after a top student back then was dug up. And now, this aloof ex-boyfriend is actively seeking reconciliation, even waiting downstairs at my company to ask about my current situation, all because he regretted not speaking up when we broke up. After my brother started dating, his teacher came for a home visit. My parents were embarrassed, so I had to handle it. The doorbell rang, and when I opened the door, it was my puppy love ex-boyfriend. The next second, my brother beamed. "Teacher Luke, my mom and I have been waiting for you for a long time. Get out! My brother is dating." Psychology experts say that when a person engages in romantic behavior, it indicates that their mind has matured and they have a need for it. If a child is constantly controlled, it's highly likely they'll never find a partner in the future. So, for my brother's lifelong happiness, I generously gave him 50 yuan. I told him to treat his girlfriend to bubble tea. As a result, the kid was caught by his homeroom teacher and sold me out, so the teacher said she would come for a home visit after school. My parents found out about it, felt embarrassed, and absolutely refused to come home. So, as the main culprit, I had no choice but to step up. To minimize interaction with the teacher, I timed it perfectly. The teacher was coming for a home visit at 6, so I prepared a table full of terrible food in advance, determined not to give her a chance to stay for dinner. My brother gave me a thumbs up repeatedly. At 6 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang on time, and my brother nervously went to open the door. "Teacher Luke, my mom and I have been waiting for you for a long time." Damn it! Do I look that old? I forced a smile and came out of the kitchen, meeting the man at the door's gaze. "Is this your mom? Is this your teacher?" I felt my vision go black. It was truly a case of the flood washing away the Dragon King's temple, meaning a misunderstanding between close parties. Luke, the person I had an early relationship with back then, had now become my brother's homeroom teacher, coming to catch him for an early relationship. Luke adjusted the glasses on his nose, his expression a half smile. "So, early relationships run in your family, huh?" My brother and I exchanged glances, both with the same fear in our eyes. Luke swaggered into my house and sat on the sofa. My brother tugged at my sleeve. "Sis, say something." "Thanks. Do you think I dare?" My fear of Luke was deeply ingrained. When he was in high school, he was a top student. The teacher started a tutoring program, and so, as a poor student, I actually became desk mates with a top student one day. Every day, seeing a super handsome guy sitting in front of me, I, predictably, developed a crush. In the notes Luke wrote for me, I added a few heartfelt confessions. To show my rich inner world, I even wrote them in English. Unexpectedly, Luke just sneered after reading my confession. 3 sentences, 5 mistakes. Even the English teacher would be furious. Luke was so cold to me back then, but I just loved his arrogant demeanor. And I pursued him relentlessly every day, bringing him breakfast, buying him milk, and helping him get water, determined to be a gentle white moonlight. This strategy actually worked, and I managed to win Luke over after graduation. Even filling out college applications was something Luke thought about for a long time before deciding. We applied to schools in the same city, just across the street from each other, and began our passionate college romance. Thinking about it now, it's terrifying. If I had known Luke would become my brother's homeroom teacher, I wouldn't have come home today for anything. "Tony said you supported him dating early." Luke sat across from me, exuding an aura that made me feel involuntarily diminished in his presence. I didn't. How could I possibly support that? Students should definitely prioritize their studies. As I spoke, I pinched my brother, who immediately reacted by nodding repeatedly. "I'm sorry, Teacher Luke. I was wrong. I definitely won't date early anymore." Luke didn't react to Tony's words, his gaze fixed intently on me. "You don't support it?" I couldn't help but cover my face and cry. What goes around truly comes around. If I hadn't supported it, there wouldn't have been that whole chasing him down thing back then. Unfortunately, my brother didn't understand my silence. He was merely Luke's blind follower. Yes, teacher. My sister actually doesn't support me. When she was in school, she refused everyone who pursued her. Please, stop talking." "Really? That happened?" Luke looked at me with a sinister smile, while my brother continued to blabber beside him. "There was even a super academic who pursued my sister back then, and she just wouldn't agree." "Teacher, I was wrong. From now on, I'll definitely learn from my sister. And absolutely not date early." I gritted my teeth and finally couldn't resist pinching my brother, making him jump off the sofa in pain. Luke chuckled softly and said, It seems you two really are siblings. I gave an awkward laugh. Fortunately, Luke didn't bring up the topic of early dating again. He just talked about my brother's academic performance at school, then asked a couple of questions about the situation at home. After taking notes, he prepared to leave. Teacher, why don't you stay for dinner? I desperately wanted to cover my brother's mouth. Luke's gaze fell on the table of questionable food, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. This is... My sister made it. Although it doesn't look great, it's barely edible. Teacher, why don't you stay? This was the strategy we had agreed upon at the time, to advance by retreating. Only now did I realize that retreating was a bottomless abyss. No need. I have other things to do, so I won't bother you. Before leaving, Luke gave me a meaningful look. I remember you used to say you were a good cook, but now it seems... Luke chuckled softly and closed the door, leaving me frozen in place. My brother, standing not far away, looked at me in surprise. Sis, you know Mr. Luke? I nodded, slumping onto the sofa and resignedly ordering takeout. My brother suddenly leaned closer. Are you two friends? You sound like you're on really good terms. From now on, for your sake, can Mr. Luke be a bit more lenient with me? Man, you're playing with fire. My brother's eyes revealed a clear foolishness. Based on his performance today, I decided to tell him this cruel truth, hoping he'd get an early taste of the harshness of society. Actually, Mr. Luke and I are indeed on good terms. You could say we're friends. My brother nodded excitedly. But a few more words need to be added before that. He's my ex-boyfriend. In that instant, the light in my brother's eyes vanished. Oh, right. I was the one who broke up with him back then. That night, my brother's wails echoed throughout the entire apartment building. Because of this, for 3 consecutive days, my brother didn't say a word to me, which even made my mom a bit confused. Haven't you two siblings always gotten along so well? Why aren't you talking now? As soon as I finished speaking, my brother glared at me fiercely. I claimed innocence. After all, how was I supposed to know Luke was now my brother's homeroom teacher? But staying in a stalemate wasn't a solution. After all, siblings don't hold grudges overnight. Taking advantage of the time after dinner, I knocked on my brother's door. I could clearly hear voices inside, but no one told me to come in. I patiently knocked a few more times, but still no one answered. This brat is getting too big for his britches, isn't he? If he doesn't want me to come in, he can just say so, but knocking and not answering. I angrily opened the door to find my brother sitting on his bed with his back to me, headphones on, affectionately calling someone, baby, help, my ears. Maybe it was because I was used to his usual croaky voice and silly antics in front of me, but when he started putting on a godlike, breathy voice, I couldn't stand it. My brother, startled by my sudden appearance, sprang off the bed and immediately hung up the phone. Why didn't you knock? I did. You just didn't hear me. I glanced at his phone screen. The call log was long, and they even had matching couple avatars. Girlfriend? My brother nodded, blushing. I looked at my parents, who had returned to their room, then closed the door behind me and walked over to interrogate him. Didn't you say puppy love was wrong? You swore up and down to your teachers, so why haven't you broken up yet? If Luke found out, wouldn't he think I encouraged it? Didn't you and Mr. Luke used to date? But we broke up later. My brother, for once, looked pitiful and pleaded. Sis, I'm begging you, I really like her. Haven't you ever met someone who made your heart flutter just by looking at them? Of course I had. Luke back then was the highlight of my entire youth. I'd never seen anyone so handsome. Even the ugly blue and white school uniform looked different on Luke. But human nature is inherently hypocritical. Even though I clung to Luke back then, it doesn't stop me from preventing my brother's puppy love now. But I didn't expect my brother to not only be unrepentant but to even escalate things, directly holding his girlfriend's hand outside of school. What was even more unexpected was that they were caught red-handed by the girl's mother. Now it's escalated to the school, and they're insisting a parent come in. I don't know if my mom has some kind of psychic ability, but she and my dad went on a trip 2 days early. So, my unlucky older sister had to step in again. Before I even entered the office, I could hear the shouting inside. You're a girl. How can you let a man take advantage of you so easily? Do you know how hard it was for me to raise you? The most important thing for you right now is studying. I heard a woman's sharp voice inside, and a girl's faint sobs, and my heart tightened. Kristen's mom. Please calm down a bit. You're too emotional right now. It's not suitable to talk to your child. Finally, the shouting inside quieted down considerably. I took a deep breath, forced a smile, and walked into the office. Hello, I'm Tony's sister. No sooner had I spoken than a slap landed on my face. Before I could react, my left cheek stung, and my ears even rang. So your brother is the one who's been messing with my daughter, huh? Shameless. Today I'm going to teach you both a good lesson. How dare you hit my sister? My brother, who had been standing in the corner, suddenly rushed over and stood in front of me. What are you doing? You two siblings want to fight now? I rubbed my aching face and pushed my brother aside. Madam, putting aside the relationship between the two children, regarding the slap you just gave me, I can absolutely sue you for assault. Seeing my firm attitude, the woman instantly deflated quite a bit and yanked the girl next to her. Do you see? This is the boyfriend you like. Now his sister wants to sue me. Your mom. What do you like about a man like this? There was also a sobbing girl standing in the office, her eyes red and swollen from crying, constantly looking at me and Tony. Sister, I'm sorry. My mom didn't mean it. You're still siding with outsiders, helping them speak, aren't you? The girl was pushed to the ground, a scene that left even me helpless. My brother quickly went to help his girlfriend up, and the woman next to him was jumping around like crazy. Enough! Finally, Luke stepped in to stop it. He looked at my face for a long time, his hands clenched into fists, the veins on the back of his hands faintly visible. I suddenly remembered when I was hit in the head by a ball while passing a basketball court. Luke had the same expression. After that, he rushed into the basketball court, determined to find the person who threw the ball and make them apologize to me. But now he's a teacher, he should be neutral. I shook my head at Luke, who was silent for a moment, meeting the gaze of the woman next to him. Madam, if you cannot calm down, our conversation today cannot continue, the woman snorted. But out of respect for the teacher, she didn't speak. My brother stood behind me, his eyes fixed on my face. Since junior high, my brother had never shed a tear in front of me, nor had he shown any expression of regret. He had always been a brave and determined young man. While no one was paying attention, I patted him on the shoulder. It's okay. Your sister has thick skin. Once everyone was finally seated, Luke brought up the topic of the two children's puppy love. Kristen wiped away her tears, staring aggrievedly at her mother, who looked like she was about to devour someone. Our family has a daughter, so we're always at a disadvantage in this kind of situation. The college entrance exam is coming up soon. How can they do something like this? It's really ruining our family's reputation. Saying that, the woman turned her head and glared at the girl again. Puppy love is indeed wrong. After all, it affects their studies, but I've looked at the two children's recent monthly exam results. Both show a clear upward trend, which is also a pretty good phenomenon. Luke took out their monthly exam papers, and just as I was about to mediate, the woman snatched the papers and immediately jumped up. What's going on with your essay? How did you lose 5 points? Do you know how much difference 5 points can make? The woman angrily pointed at several mistakes on the test paper. Kristen didn't dare to look up and speak, looking so wronged that I felt sorry for her. Parent, I still have to say, it's very rare for a Chinese essay not to lose points. After all, literature has always been open to 1,000 interpretations, and everyone's perspective is different. Teacher, but our Kristen used to win first prize for her essays in elementary school. How can she be so bad now in high school? As she spoke, the woman's resentful gaze shot fiercely towards me and my brother. Ultimately, isn't it because someone dragged my daughter into a relationship, delaying her studies? The woman's curses grew louder and louder, until Kristen, who had been silent behind her, suddenly kicked her chair away. Enough! You're always scolding others. Have you ever thought about your own reasons? You never care about what I'm thinking inside. You want me to have good grades, but you never praise me when I improve. Only complain that I'm not first place. When I'm sick, you say it's because I'm playing around. I finally finished my homework, and you won't even let me listen to music. I'm really about to break down. Have you ever cared about my feelings? The woman sat there stunned for a long time, then stood up and started yelling back. You're really out of control now. You're in a relationship and you even dare to talk back to your mom, huh? Did your boyfriend teach you that? You'll come back crying when you get pregnant. Damn it, I'm just sitting here and trouble comes out of nowhere. You care so much. Isn't it because you had an early relationship back then that you gave birth to me? A loud slap suddenly landed on the girl's face, echoing loudly in the office. Stunning everyone present, Kristen covered her face, and the woman's eyes were red. How dare you talk to your mom like that? You never treated me like your own daughter anyway. With that, Kristen stormed out of the office. Today's conversation ended in failure. Luke said he would invite the woman over for a private talk tomorrow, and she glared at me fiercely as she left. My brother looked at me apologetically, and I smiled, pulling at the wound on the corner of my mouth. I gasped in pain, enduring it and letting my brother return to class first. After everyone left, the office finally quieted down. I was about to leave when Luke suddenly stopped me. taking out iodine and cotton swabs from a drawer. "Come here and put some medicine on." Although I couldn't see the injury on my face, it was hit hard, and judging by the pain and the furrowed brows of Luke and my brother, I suspected it was quite serious. Damn it! If my face is disfigured, I must demand an explanation from that old woman! Luke applied the medicine to my face with a cotton swab. I tried my best to control the pain and forced a smile. Why do you think her mother reacted so strongly? Is there anyone who doesn't have early relationships these days? After I finished speaking, Luke gave me a meaningful look. After all, I was the one who led him into an early relationship back then. Today, it was just holding hands that got caught. In the past, Luke and I even kissed in the alley. What would Auntie's reaction have been if she knew about us back then? My mom already knew. I waved my hand indifferently. After all, my grades that year were entirely due to Luke's persistent tutoring. Seeing my report card, my mom, far from breaking us up, would have gladly burned incense for Luke and worshipped him. After applying the medicine, I looked at Luke, who was tidying up the iodine and cotton swabs, and suddenly became curious. What was your mother's reaction when she found out we were dating? After all, we were caught red-handed once when we went to the cinema on a weekend, and I only found out later that the couple sitting diagonally in front of me were Luke's parents. The most crucial couple didn't react, and Luke was even more composed, sitting next to me and discussing the plot. So much so that after Luke told me the truth, I spent the whole night wondering if I had said anything inappropriate in the cinema. Luke hesitated, seemingly recalling. At first, they were a bit unhappy, but I've always made my own decisions since I was little, and I told them I used to like men. They immediately acquiesced after hearing that. A mischievous smile flashed across Luke's face, as if he was still proud of his quick wit back then. I couldn't help but give him a thumbs up. Indeed, you're the real tough one. Bringing up the past now, it all seems like a joke. So much so that I forgot the pain, and only realized how badly my face was injured when I got home. I should have known better than to give in to that old woman. I should have slapped her back. I looked at my severely swollen half face in the mirror, wanting to cry but unable to. While icing my face on the sofa, I received a text message from Luke. Just a simple sentence. "How have you been all these years?" What else could I say? Just, so-so. Back then, thanks to Luke, I got into a pretty good school. Later, Luke excelled academically and got a recommendation for postgraduate studies. I had no hope for postgraduate entrance exams and wanted to see the world abroad. Plus, after some arguments, we simply broke up, and I went abroad. I lived alone the whole time I was there. There was no longing day and night. No being out of my mind, as in novels. I still lived my own life. It's just that sometimes when I see things related to him, I'll space out for a long time thinking about him. Even our breakup was inexplicable. There was no plot of parents throwing checks to interfere. No third party or green tea to cause trouble. It seemed like it was just two immature people arguing over some small reasons, and then bottling it up, causing the rift to grow wider and wider. It's been okay. I typed out 3 words, simply summarizing these past few years of my life. It had always been as calm as still water, until the moment we met, when a huge wave suddenly surged in my heart. He just stood there, and he was different. The typing indicator had been showing for a long time before I finally received a message. I really regret breaking up back then. I was so startled that I flipped over and sat up from the sofa, checking multiple times to confirm the message was from Luke. How strange. The person who used to blush and struggle for a long time just to say I love you could now say something like this. Besides the joy, there was a hint of triumph in my heart. Serves you right, regretting it now, aren't you? Wouldn't it have been over sooner if you had just given in earlier? The more I thought about it, the more excited I became, and I tossed and turned all night. The next day at work, my colleagues all looked at me with strange expressions. The colleague next to me couldn't help but lean over. "Jennifer, are you married?" I shook my head, looking at her confused. "Then do you have a partner?" I shook my head again. "Is this person trying to set me up?" My colleague stared at me for a long time before looking away, leaving me completely bewildered. When I was waiting for a car by the roadside after work, someone suddenly called out to me from behind. "Has anything happened to you recently?" The person speaking was my supervisor. I was about to shake my head when my supervisor looked at my face, hesitating to speak. I was so scared that I immediately took out my phone to check my reflection. I had clearly applied concealer before leaving home, but it had rubbed off while I was squeezing onto the subway. What kind of demonic setting spray is this? No wonder everyone was staring at me with strange looks today. Turns out I'd been walking around in front of everyone with a red, swollen face. "If anything's wrong, you must tell me." As he spoke, my supervisor suddenly reached out to touch my face, but I immediately dodged him. Ever since I joined the company, this supervisor had shown an unusual amount of concern for me. But unfortunately, his central air conditioning nature was well known, and everyone had warned me about him early on. Luckily, my ride-hailing car had arrived, so I quickly said goodbye to my supervisor and got in. As the car started, I saw a white car parked by the roadside, with a familiar figure inside. It wasn't until the car was halfway to its destination that I suddenly remembered that looked like Luke. When we were in school, Luke had said he really liked that car model, and that he would definitely order one when he had money in the future. As a result, the car's appearance was deeply etched in my mind. Through the windshield, I could almost certainly identify the figure as Luke. But why wasn't he at school at this time, appearing at the entrance of our company? I felt a little confused. That evening, my younger brother came home from evening self-study with a long face. "What's wrong? Isn't tomorrow the weekend? Aren't you happy? You have half a day to go on a date with your girlfriend." In the past, Luke and I would always seize that half day to go on dates and watch movies. My brother sat beside me and silently watched me for a long time. "Kristen didn't come to school today." I was a little surprised. After all, her mother seemed to care a lot about grades. So how could she allow her daughter to take time off during such an important period in her senior year? Teacher Luke went to her house for a home visit. I heard she had an argument with her family and even went on a hunger strike. From my brother's mouth, I roughly learned about Kristen's basic situation. Single parent, excellent grades, introverted personality, and a controlling mother at home who constantly monitors her daughter like a surveillance camera, especially skilled in critical education. No wonder I felt that little girl was like a constantly taut string the last time I saw her. My brother sighed deeply, preparing to go back to his room, when I suddenly remembered, "Wasn't your teacher Luke at school this afternoon?" "No. Didn't he come looking for you? He even asked for your company's address." It really was him. He wouldn't have misunderstood something by seeing me standing with my supervisor, would he? I remembered when we were in college, we would always argue over such trivial matters, perhaps because we weren't at the same school and usually had our own classes to attend. Sometimes, when I went to his school to find him, I would inevitably see him talking to a few girls. A young heart always carries many naive assumptions, but is too embarrassed to ask, which led us to drift apart. Now that I think about it, it was because I had a mouth but didn't know how to speak back then. If I had explained clearly at the time, maybe we wouldn't have separated. I stood by the window, hesitating for a long time, preparing to send Luke a message. As soon as I opened the chat interface, I was stunned. Last night, Luke sent a message saying he regretted breaking up, and I was so excited I couldn't sleep all night. But I also forgot to reply because of the excitement. After much deliberation, I decided to first explain why I didn't reply to his message yesterday. I accidentally fell asleep last night and forgot to reply. Great, I was so embarrassed I could have dug out a 2-bedroom apartment myself. Just as I was about to find a more reasonable excuse, Luke's message came. "Okay, I understand. I was going to come to your company to find you today, but I saw you standing with a man. What's your relationship?" "Just colleagues. He's my supervisor. We don't usually talk much." "That's good. I saw you get in the car and thought you had other things to do, so I didn't call you." "Are you really not involved with that manager?" Luke uncharacteristically pressed for details, as if he wanted to investigate the manager's ancestors 3 generations back. "It's really just a very ordinary superior-subordinate relationship. He's a central air conditioner. I don't like him at all." This time, Luke took a long time to reply. "Then do you like me?" "Oh no, oh no. The world has really changed." The once aloof and unattainable person suddenly found their voice. Just as I was lost in thought, Luke called. A clear, refined, and elegant male voice spoke. "Jennifer, I don't want us to miss each other again." The person on the other end paused for a moment, and I felt everything around me go quiet, hearing only my rapidly accelerating heartbeat. We weren't mature enough back then, but after we broke up, I regretted it for a long time. I don't think it was worth it for us to break up over such small things. Luke's voice was a little hoarse, coming through the receiver, particularly captivating in the silent late night. "I don't think we should just let things go between us." I was silent for a long time, and Luke on the other end didn't say a word, patiently waiting for my answer. "I think you're right. We shouldn't just let things go between us. You shouldn't meet someone too stunning when you're young, otherwise, everyone you meet in the future will seem mediocre." Luke on the other end let out a long sigh of relief. We were just about to get all lovey-dovey and talk about our feelings after being apart when my brother's tragic wail shattered the peace. "What's wrong?" I hung up the phone and went to my brother's room to check on him. He was holding his phone, looking anxious. I called Kristen, but she didn't answer. "Bro, you guys are still in high school. There are always times when your parents confiscate your phone, right? I had my phone confiscated several times back then for playing games all night. But Kristen said she hid this phone really well. There's no way it could have been found, my brother mumbled, burying his head in his pillow, looking like a heartbroken, pure young man. I rolled my eyes and turned to leave the room. But the next day, my brother came back and told me that Kristen still hadn't gone to school. I was about to comfort him, thinking maybe she just didn't bother coming since it was only half a day. But the next moment, the front door was pounded on. Kristen's mother stood at the door, yelling at me from the moment I opened it. You people are truly shameless. What do you want now? First, you encouraged my daughter to have an early relationship, and now you're instigating her to run away from home. You are truly shameless. The woman's spit kept spraying on my face, but I noticed a key phrase. Did you say Kristen ran away? What? Kristen is missing? My brother rushed up anxiously. As soon as she saw my brother, the woman lunged at him like a madwoman. Did you take my daughter? Where is she? Where is she? The scene became chaotic. Fortunately, Luke arrived in time. He stood in the middle, took my hand, and asked, Are you okay? I'm late. I'm fine. I shook my head. It was probably when he hung up the phone and heard my brother's miserable wails that he became so worried. I've called the police. Let them handle it. Fortunately, Luke had already called the police, and when they arrived, my mother breathed a sigh of relief. Go find your daughter quickly. The child is under a lot of pressure in her senior year. If you delay any longer, something serious will really happen. What was supposed to be a good weekend? My brother was completely distraught, holding his phone and calling everyone Kristen knew, while my mother watched silently beside him. After my brother's phone ran out of battery, she took out her own phone. No matter what, let's find her first. Finally, the police checked surveillance footage everywhere and eventually found her at the hospital. Since my mother also worked at that hospital, she simply drove us there to check on the situation. Kristen was holding a piece of paper, and before we could even speak, her mother rushed forward and slapped her. Are you pregnant by a man? How could you be so cheap? How many times have I told you, why don't you listen? Our whole family looked at my brother, who shook his head in horror. We only held hands. I promise I won't mess around before marriage. Kristen chuckled lightly and shoved the paper into her mother's hand. Are you satisfied now? Seeing me like this, are you satisfied? Kristen's mother's face instantly changed when she saw the paper. I was a little confused about what was written on it. Just then, a doctor in a white coat emerged from the crowd, and my mother's face also changed. Mom, who is that doctor? My mother's grip on my arm tightened slightly. Psychiatrist. My heart instantly sank. The doctor took Kristen's hand and looked at the woman standing opposite. You must be the child's mother, right? Your child has been diagnosed with moderate depression, too much mental stress. As a parent, didn't you notice anything? Now medication is needed. Come with me to the office to discuss the situation. I'm not going. Kristen's mother raised her hand, tore the diagnosis, slipped to shreds, and made to drag Kristen away. I feed you and clothe you. What do you have to be depressed about? You're just being dramatic. You're in your last year of high school. We can't waste time. Come home with me. A crowd gathered, and the police quickly pulled Kristen's mother away, explaining that the child needed immediate treatment. Kristen suddenly screamed, collapsing to the ground, covering her head and shouting, Why do you always scold me? You've never said a kind word to me. You put cameras in my room. You don't let me go out freely. And if my grades drop even 1 point, I get beaten by you. What do you want from me? At that moment, Kristen sat on the ground crying alone, venting her emotions. The next second, my brother rushed forward without hesitation and hugged her tightly. You still have me, don't be afraid. The two embraced tightly, and this scene deeply agitated Kristen's mother. She anxiously tried to approach, but was pulled back by the police. The atmosphere on the scene was chaotic until the police took her aside to talk to her. Kristen clutched my brother's hand tightly, as if holding on to her last shred of support. Finally, my mother left first, my brother stayed with Kristen at the hospital for a while, and I waited nearby. Mainly, I was afraid that the crazy mother would rush over again and my brother wouldn't be able to stop her. I saw Luke not far away, talking to Kristen's mother. His brows furrowed as he tried to persuade her to take Kristen for treatment. Night gradually fell, and mother and daughter finally began to calm down. We suggested that the young couple focus on their studies for now and deal with their relationship after the college entrance exam. Kristen's mother took Kristen for treatment. As night gradually fell, mother and daughter finally began to calm down. We suggested that the young couple focus on their studies for now and deal with their relationship after the college entrance exam. Kristen's mother took Kristen for treatment. In the end, Kristen insisted on taking a year off from school to adjust her mindset, and my brother also insisted on taking a year off with Kristen. He even said, "Anyway, my grades aren't ideal right now. If I prepare for another year, maybe I can do better." It was getting late, and tonight's matters remained unresolved. Luke told Kristen to get treatment first, and then follow the doctor's arrangements. After everyone finally left, I let out a long sigh of relief. So tired. It's not easy being a parent, and it's not easy being a teacher. Luke chuckled, reaching out and taking my hand. Then you're both a parent and a teacher's family member. Isn't that doubly difficult? I recalled that it was indeed true. If it weren't for your sake, after she slapped me, I would have definitely slapped her back. Wasn't it because I didn't want the conflict to escalate and make things difficult for you? Yes, 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 thank you. You've been wronged. We exchanged a smile, and my brother behind me looked at us resentfully, clamoring for food. All right, then I'll treat you two siblings to dinner. Luke took my arm, and we walked towards the restaurant. After just 2 steps, I suddenly saw Kristen on the opposite street corner, and Kristen's mother was staring intently at us with a resentful look. High school students only get half a day off, so my brother went to school miserably the next day. I went to work as usual until my mom called at noon. Kristen's mother saw you and Luke. And then what? Is there a problem with us getting back together after breaking up? Even if there was a problem, my mom, as a parent, didn't say anything. Then she took pictures of you two and posted them in the parents group, saying that Luke discriminated against students, which led to her daughter suffering from depression, and that she had already reported it to the Education Bureau. At that moment, countless curses flooded my mind, and I hung up the phone, suppressing the urge to swear. I read through all the screenshots my mom sent me. Sure enough, our photos from last night had been taken. Following them was a long rant from Kristen's mom. Tony and my daughter are in an early relationship, which is hindering my daughter's studies. I was so angry that I went to their house to confront them. Tony's sister, Jennifer, seduced the homeroom teacher. Mr. Luke. Mr. Luke is now clearly biased towards Tony and is turning a blind eye to the children's early relationship, even discriminating against others, which has caused my daughter to suffer from depression. I demand that the school give our family justice. The 3rd year of high school is a sensitive time, and parents are all on edge. Luke was also a new homeroom teacher and hadn't yet established himself among the parents. After Kristen's mom twisted the facts, this incident instantly caused a huge uproar. That evening, I went to my brother's school and saw Luke standing under a sycamore tree at the school gate from a distance. Whenever he was down or sad, he liked to stand under the tree pretending to be a wooden man, saying that this way he could forget time and feel nature. I rushed forward recklessly and hugged Luke tightly from behind. Luke stood still and chuckled. Now only you are brave enough to hug me like this. Of course. I even dared to pull you into an early relationship when I was in high school. Luke turned around and forced a smile, but I found it jarring. Do you want to cry on my shoulder? He shook his head and just reached out to hug me. This is enough. It was the first time I felt Luke's helplessness. He was no longer the effortlessly brilliant student he once was at school. The last time I felt this lost was when you broke up with me, Luke suddenly said. At that time, I was as bewildered as I am now. I felt a pang in my heart. It seemed the only 2 things in Luke's life that left him helpless were because of me. Are we just fundamentally incompatible? What did the school say? Suspended for now, waiting for someone to come and investigate. Luke stood up and ruffled my hair. Looks like I'll have to let you support me for a while. No problem. I'd be happy to. That day, Luke was unusually quiet. For several days after, he stayed at home, sometimes picking me up from work. My mom said there was no news in the group chat. The parents were all tight-lipped about it, probably not wanting to affect their children's moods. It wasn't until Thursday that I suddenly received an unfamiliar text message. I'm sorry, big sister. I'm the one who hurt Teacher Luke, hurt Tony, hurt you. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. I guessed who the sender was, but I felt uneasy. A thought flashed through my mind, and I was so scared that I quickly called Luke, immediately took leave, and hailed a taxi to the school. By the time we arrived, the teaching building was already surrounded by people. A helpless girl sat on the rooftop, her long dress fluttering, as if she would fall with a gust of wind. Kristen! My brother rushed to the rooftop, ignoring everything, and Luke and I followed closely behind. There were also a few police officers and Kristen's mother on the rooftop, but they all stood several steps away from her. With every step forward, Kristen's shoe would move out a little further. At this moment, Kristen's mother could no longer pay attention to us, kneeling on the ground and crying uncontrollably. Kristen's face was terribly pale, and she looked at us and forced a smile. Teacher Luke, I'm sorry. Come down first. It's not your fault. I don't blame you. Luke's voice trembled, and the veins on his forehead were faintly visible. Kristen, you've done very well. Let's talk about whatever it is. Don't take all the blame on yourself. But you are a very good teacher. I like to draw. And you are the only one who praised my drawings and let me draw on the blackboard. You shouldn't be insulted by others. Kristen looked at my brother with red eyes again. Tony, I love you. You broke my dark world. You are very much like your name, always warming me like sunshine. Meeting you is the happiest thing in my life. Kristen. My brother reached out to her with red eyes. Every word Kristen said sounded like a farewell. Finally, she fixed her gaze on her mother. You always make me follow the path you've laid out, but you've never asked me what I want. You never understand me. I'm not a doll you bought. I have my own thoughts, and I'm really tired. I'm sorry. I really can't take it anymore. Kristen turned around, looked up at the sun above her head, and moved her feet forward, little by little. Goodbye. I watched her body relax and fall forward. Kristen! At that moment, my brother rushed out, and my heart felt like it was going to jump out. I instinctively covered my eyes. All I heard were the exclamations of the crowd. I opened my eyes and saw my brother lying on the rooftop railing, all his arm muscles showing. Several police officers also rushed up at the first moment. At the last moment, my brother grabbed Kristen's clothes, and several people pulled her up together. My brother hugged Kristen tightly and cried uncontrollably. Blood was still gushing from his arm. He must have cut his hand on a nail on the railing while saving someone. The group rushed to the hospital. My mom originally intended to stitch up my brother herself, but after seeing the bloody wound, she handed the task over to a colleague. It wasn't until I got to the hospital that I realized what had happened. My legs went weak, and I almost fell. But luckily Luke was behind me and caught me in time. After getting stitched up, my brother started clamoring for Kristen. Several police officers were still in the ward, and Kristen's mother was kneeling on the floor, crying. Mommy was wrong. I won't do this again. You can do whatever you want, okay? If you want to learn to paint, we'll paint. You can be with whoever you want. Mommy begs you. Kristen just stared blankly at the ceiling until she saw my brother, and then a single tear slowly welled up. The school went to great lengths to suppress the news. Kristen's aunt rushed back from out of town and, upon learning what happened, scolded her sister. My mom pulled some strings and found the best director to treat Kristen's condition. My brother knelt at home for a long time before my parents finally agreed to let him accompany Kristen to repeat a year of school. Half a month later, one evening, a parent finally spoke in the group, breaking the long silence. I think Mr. Luke is a very responsible and respectable teacher. We have no right to interfere with his private life, and our child also says that the teacher doesn't show any favoritism. A single stone stirred up 1,000 ripples, and parents voiced their opinions in the group, leading the school to immediately revoke Luke's suspension. However, Luke still submitted his resignation, planning to leave the school after the current semester's classes conclude and this year's college entrance exams are over. Why are you resigning? I asked, somewhat puzzled, as being a teacher had always been Luke's dream, and he had always worked hard for it. Don't think I don't know. You went to each parent individually and spoke well of me, didn't you? What do you mean, spoke well? I was just showing off our love, talking about our love story from back in the day. I get embarrassed talking about this. The first time I told it, I was shy. 10 times, I was excited. After more than 40 times, I was just numb. Even more crucially, many parents would press for details, saying it sounded like a novel. Some parents even held my hand and said, Teacher Luke is a good man. You must cherish him. Thankfully, the parents finally understood that Luke had been my boyfriend before Tony became his student, and they showed us respect and offered their blessings. Luke looked at me for a long time, then reached out and hugged me. You don't have to do so much for me. I know it all. I can be a teacher anywhere. I just want a change of environment. Luke was so insistent that I no longer pressed the issue. Thankfully, things were moving in a good direction. I saw Kristen again on the day my brother took his college entrance exam. My family told him to just give it a try, and Kristen gave me a faint smile. Sister, can you talk to Tony? He doesn't have to wait for me. I'll work hard for him. I can't talk him out of it. After the exam, my brother walked into the exam hall happily and walked out sadly. I patted him on the shoulder and handed him a pair of gloves. I understand you, sis. You found the college entrance exam difficult, right? It's okay. There are many construction sites now. Wear gloves so your hands don't get burned when you move bricks. I knew my brother's grades, and studying for another year would do him good. Plus, with the new year, there was Luke, an excellent one-on-one tutor providing exclusive service. On weekends, I would take my brother to Luke's house for tutoring, and sometimes Kristen would come along too. Finally, it was Chinese New Year. and my mom said to invite Luke over for dinner. My brother hesitated for a long time and then cautiously asked if Kristen could come too. But the atmosphere that day was very strange. Even though Luke had resigned now, he was still my brother's and Kristen's teacher half a year ago, and that psychological shadow still lingered. And Luke was coming to my house for dinner for the first time as my boyfriend, facing the same restraint from my mom. My mom felt she had entrusted both of her mischievous children to Luke, and out of guilt, she spoke very politely. So that day, the house was filled with a harmonious and democratic atmosphere, so civilized and polite that they almost spoke in honorifics. After the meal, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After the spring festival, the cold winter faded, and the warm spring arrived. Kristen's condition improved, and on the day of the college entrance exam, the two encouraged each other and entered the exam hall together. Standing behind them, I felt the satisfaction of seeing my children grow up. Luke was a strict teacher, and under his guidance, my brother's grades improved significantly. With the bonus points for being an athlete, he happily went to the same university as Kristen, the academic ace. The day they received their admission letters, I also received a gift. A crystal clear pigeon's egg, the kind that would blind anyone who saw it. The day they reported to college was a bright, sunny day, and the young couple walked hand in hand into their university life. Luke looked at their retreating figures and sighed. They're luckier than us, at the same university. You say that as if you're mocking me for being foolish back then. Not at all. I was the foolish one. I snorted, shaking the ring on my hand. But it doesn't matter. Good things come to those who wait. Everything is just right.